and just say Shy City and around the world. Welcome to another episode of Chicago's Illectuals podcast. We are back. And today we have Miss Kenya Hawkins with us. How are
Thank you.
you
Thank
doing? Hey, Kenya.
Hey, hey.
All right. Kenya, let's just jump right into the interview. Is
All
that
right.
okay? All right.
I'm good with that.
Tell the world a little bit about your background.
Sure. So my name is Kenya Hawkins. I am a qualified mental health professional. Currently, I am working on acquiring my certified alcohol and drug counselor certification as well as my LPC. I have for over 20 years worked in public service, worked in city of Chicago government. I worked for a female adolescent facing mentoring program um, where I went into Chicago public schools. I even traveled to Boston doing that role. And now I am a clinical program manager for a violence prevention program that serves East and West Garfield Park, Austin, pretty much the West Side. And I am passionate, very, very, very passionate about Black wellness, mental health
Mhm.
of the state of our young African American women when it comes to mental health and substance use disorder and the epidemic of Black girls that are missing and that are being murdered and that are also becoming more involved in violent crimes.
Mm. You know that sounds like it sounds like a research topic. I know we were talking offline, and we'll get into what you.
Yes.
But I'll let you tell that story. But before we
Okay.
get to that, let's talk a little bit about your background, where you grew up.
Yeah. Hyde Park all day long
Ah,
for the south side of Chicago. Kenwood Bronco. Class of
I was going to ask you that. Before you went to Kenwood, what
90.
school did you go to?
Cosmin Charles Kosminski Community Academy. But
You,
I'm
you
a Cos
know,
kid.
I have a lot of good friends who are Hyde Parkers, right? And they would have been upset if you didn't mention Kosminski.
Oh, listen. I don't want to show my face at HP without mentioning Kosminski, okay?
So how was the Kenwood experience?
ah, okay. It was cool, it was cool. I can't trip. It was cool. Off campus lunch, you get to go to all the restaurants in High Park. At that time we had Wendy's, Doc's, Dr. Wax. That's when HP was HP.
Yeah.
It's not this downtown High Park now. You had the Benetton store, High Park movie theater, the Tray. It was a good time. It was good. I cannot complain. I had a really good high school experience from being in High Park, being able to do that. Some of the other high schools they didn't have those kind of amenities like we did.
Not in walking distance. Uh-uh.
Not in right, and they were all in walking distance. Like if you wanted ice cream, you can get ice cream. If you wanted to keep it real, cut class and go to the pancake house.
The point.
you,
You gotta go to the
you could
point.
cut. Yeah, go to the point. It was just so much culture. It was a lot of culture.
Hmm. Kenya,
Yes.
what are your values?
Oh my gosh, what are my values? Um, that is a question I have really been asking myself in the last 3 to 5 years as my self-awareness is elevating.
Mhm.
And my value, I want to be wealthy, but I want to give my definition of wealthy.
Okay.
Right? Because the reality is finances are important. But I when I look at finance, I look at it from a holistic approach. I want to be healthy, right? I want to say I want to live so I'm 110, but I want to live. I want to be healthy and as I grow older. I want to still be able to make an impact. Like a sage. I want to be wise. I want to be that elder that they come to, right?
Yeah.
I want to look good. I still I want to have my youthfulness to me as I age and appearance. I want to be a good steward of money, of my finances, meaning that I could take that trip to Africa. When you call me, I can swipe my card, and I'm doing that, right? Um, and my value also is to stay in the community. I really want to make an impact in the lives of young people,
Yeah.
young Black women and men, um, because they need it, and that's something that I feel I just have to do, because of the state of the world and the communities right now. You know, our young people are facing some communities that have a lot of challenges. It's a lot of gun violence. It's a lot of substance misuse. Addictions is rampant, and mental health.
Yeah.
And I just want to be that person. I want to be the humble clinician. I was gonna say hood clinician, but I want to be the humble clinician. You know, that they are comfortable coming to talking with me. I've experienced a lot of things in life, but I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I grew up in the trenches, because I didn't. I visited the trenches,
Yeah.
but I didn't reside in the trenches, right? The way I grew up was different. Like you know that. I grew up in a house with a pimp. I grew up in a house, you know, my uncle was a cross dresser before it even like what it is now. One of my uncles was a hooper. My other uncle, he also played sports, but they were popular, and they did, they did things. So what I saw growing up is different from what I see a lot of our young people are experiencing growing up. And my value, circling back, is that community service piece. I want to be able to assist them with that. Family, I definitely have a value. Family, I definitely see myself eventually being married. A beautiful blended family. Um, definitely want grandkids, and want to be able to experience a life with a partner that is in alignment and with who I am, and we continue to grow together. But we also have patience for each other as we both evolve
Mm.
together and independently. And man, that's why I say educate. Well, in education, I'm a lifelong learner. Uh, so I would definitely say education, wealth, and family, and love.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So the first thing you said is you wanted to live to be, well, amongst the first things you said, you wanted to live to be 110 years old,
110.
right? And you said you wanted to be healthy, wealthy, nurturing, community oriented, family centered. Well, it don't make no sense to live to be 110 if you're not healthy, first of all.
You gotta be healthy,
Right? We
you
don't
know.
want to be 110 and suffering, right? And so that all makes sense.
Exactly, exactly,
That all makes
exactly.
sense. Uh, I know your family. I know your family and your uncles, and,
Yeah.
and I don't want to speak for you, so I'm just going to ask you because there was somebody else in that household that you didn't mention.
Oh, and I
Well,
just
wait,
thought about that.
let me ask. I'm just going to ask you the question. I think it's going to come out. I think it's going to come out. Where did you get your mindset? Who were your early influences?
Oh, definitely my grandmother.
There you go.
Definitely Ruby
You're
Rose
kind of
Harris.
good at this, can you? Come on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But I thought you were gonna say my Uncle Michael, because I
Ah,
did mention my Uncle Michael. My Uncle
yeah.
Michael, we already know my Uncle Michael. Yeah. Um, but no, my grandma, Ruby Rose Harris, very intelligent, strategic woman. Widowed early, took care of 6 children, worked for Cook County government, retired from Cook County government. Um, Man, my grandmother should have wrote a book. Yeah, growing up in 5316. Yeah, it would be my grandmother. My grandmother was a very huge advocate of mental health.
Mm,
I don't know if a lot of people knew that about my grandmother, but she did. I remember my grandmother telling me stories of taking my uncles and them to the University of Chicago to go be evaluated. Different therapists. Like, she wasn't She wasn't shy of that. My grandmother was an avid watcher of Channel 11.
Mm.
Like, I
Yeah,
mean, oh my God. And books. My grandma taught me books. Like people, we had books. We had like bookcases and books. Um, yeah, definitely my grandma. My grandma. She was an amazing woman.
yeah.
Amazing.
You see the vibe that brought to
Yeah, it did. Just an
the
amazing woman, right? She, man,
yes.
bought a two flat in Hyde Park, just ahead of her time. Just an amazing
So
woman.
that was going to be my next question. Could you talk a little bit about Black property ownership during your childhood in Hyde Park? Because not many people know that there was a lot of Black property ownership in Hyde Park.
That's all I knew in Hyde Park was black homeowners and couples.
Mm.
Honestly, black homeowners and couples. I saw a lot. I grew up with around a lot of two-parent homes. Like I said, my mom tells me the story that her and my uncle Alexander were playing ball with another young lady, and they stumbled upon Hyde Park. And my mom and my uncle Alexander came home, told my grandma about Hyde Park. My granddad worked for Inland Steel at the time, so he was making very good money. My grandma took they found the building in Hyde Park. They purchased it, and then we stayed on Woodline. Woodline was the block full of black families. There was a family next door to us. Oh my God, his name was Cameron. I can't remember their last name, but they owned that building. And then we got the Robies, right? Mr. Roby and them. They had their property on Greenwood. Um, man, and then the mansions. How Park has many mansions, right? So we got the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. Families are able to grow up with those type of political figures. It was that was normal. That was our normal. The land that they had and the property. So yeah, black home ownership in Hyde Park. I didn't really know anything other than that, to be honest with you. Like I just knew everybody's parent had a home and they were married and they the parents stayed together. It was like the
Yeah.
Huxtables. Like most people always say like the Huxtables weren't reality, but now that you and I hindsight 2020, that was my reality.
Yeah. Were you too young to remember when Muhammad Ali had a home over there?
He did, right. I wasn't too young so I remember them talking about it. He stayed like on what was that, like 52nd, like in between 52nd,
And
51st
Woodlawn.
and Woodline,
Yeah.
right? With
Yeah.
that, he got like that little architecture pieces.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The little flat house.
Yeah, yep,
It's like cat corner to the minister's house.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't know that, but many famous people lived in Hyde Park.
absolutely, absolutely.
As artists, all type of people, man.
Mm-hmm.
What do
Mm-hmm.
you miss most about Hyde Park?
YVI.
Talk a little bit
I
about
ain't even have to say.
YBI.
I ain't even have to think about that. Youth
Tell the
vision.
world what YBI
What
is.
was it? Youth vision, integrity. The High Park basketball tournament. YVI was everything, man. Like it was all summer. It was free. Brought basketball. First y'all started at Murray, right? Murray
Yeah,
Schoolyard
yeah.
Classic, right? And then moved to Kenwood, right? Um, it was just, man, everybody came out. It was fun. It was safe. Um, you would just see everybody from all over the world. But for us, it came from Drexel, going back east in High Park. And after that, you go to the lakefront. My uncle used to play in YVI. Awesome. I remember when he dunked, when he did that dunk.
You got to tell the world which uncle you're talking about. You
Uncle
got
Ace.
five
Yeah,
uncles.
I do. Right. I'm talking to you, right. So my uncle Ace, Aiza,
Rest in peace,
the
Ace. Yes.
yeah, the beautiful thing about my uncle's name is you could spell it frontwards and backwards. Aissia. But
Mm.
his nickname was Ace. Ace played in the Schoolyard Classic. He was very, very popular around the city for basketball. Went to Manly and played basketball as well. So YBI just always gives me warm feelings because I really think about my uncle. Just being able to walk up there, sit on the bleachers. Like I used to get excited seeing them set up the bleachers, the wood bleachers. They just sit there. You knew it was coming. And then to honor my uncle when he passed, I did a basketball tournament to promote leukemia awareness because my uncle passed from leukemia. And I did that for about 10 years, that basketball tournament, and got the blessing from the founders of YVI, did a dedication to them. But for me, it'll always be YVI. Like for them men to come together and give us something to do. They didn't get paid for it. Gary, Bob, you know, they was just real selfless with that. And I don't think they get enough credit that they should, you know, throughout the city because um, that was street ball. I don't think too many communities had street ball
That was straight
like
up
that.
street ball. That was
That was
straight
straight up street ball, like in the
up.
heart of Hyde Park.
Yeah.
Like that, you know what I mean? That was iconic.
It
And
was similar to Rucker Park in New York.
absolutely,
And I never
absolutely.
seen a fight over there. I never seen any
Never
violence over there.
seen, never, not never seen a fight because we knew what we had. That's how I look at it. We didn't want it to go. You know, we knew the political powers that you know were working at that time in Hyde Park. But man, when that subsided, I don't know the community. I think that's I don't know, like that was the heart and the soul that got snatched
Yeah.
for HP.
A lot of people share that sentiment. Let me ask you another question, though. How was it living in Hyde Park when Harold Washington was living in Hyde Park? What did that feel like?
Well, it felt prestigious. I would say that, right? Because and I ironically, my mom stays in the building that he stayed in now, the Hampton House.
Really?
Yeah, so I remember growing up,
Hmm.
like we used to be like, oh, that's where Harold Washington stayed in the Hampton House. Like it was very it was just real prestigious, and it was black, uh, like black excellence. You know what I mean?
Unapologetically,
Yeah,
right?
because at that time, Chicago politics, they talk about it now, but back then you had the council wars. You know, it was heated, you know. I remember Jane Byrne, like it was real heated during them times. Tim Evans, you know, it was
Doliak.
Doliak, yeah, you know, it was going down then. So to know that he was right in the neighborhood, you can just see his building right there. That was dope.
Yeah. And you know, I grew up in Washington Park, which is adjacent to Hyde Park, and I felt like he was close to us too, right?
Yeah, right. So
Yeah,
when President Obama came, that was like the second coming. You
yeah,
know, it was like, man, again, here we got a brother, you know, in HP. You know, so it gives you that prestigious feeling of seeing Hyde Park change and grow.
yeah,
Like, cause I remember all the like wrestlers, basket, like to see it now where things are positioned. It's weird.
yeah. It's different. It's
It's
different than
different.
walking through there. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's real different.
Okay. Let's turn the page here. What are you presently working on? Do you still have your LLC? You still have that company?
So I do still have my podcast, Collage. I'm actually revamping it now. So Collage, I started that during COVID
Mhm.
to talk about Black women's mental health, and I brought my son aboard to talk about you know relationships, what we experience. So I would interview basically just like what you're doing, interview Black women about entrepreneurship, and we would talk about mental health. So now I am rebranding that because I've grown from when I started it, right? It was in infancy. And I want to focus more on, I want to continue to talk about Black women's mental health, but I want to definitely incorporate for adolescents ages, I say 12 to 25. I want to bring more of a component in about that. I want to talk about Black women's mental health, substance abuse, and relationships. What I see is we're in a gender war crisis.
Mm,
right? We the only race that go online and talk about each other like a dog.
mm,
I don't see any other race doing that when it comes to relationships, you know. But I see us doing it. Um, and everybody's an expert now in relationships. Everybody's a relationship expert. But what I want to bring to the conversation and what I want to talk about on my podcast is taking accountability for how you showed up in a relationship or what you chose,
yeah,
right? And I and showing what black love can look like and what it can be and what it can feel like, as opposed to um the mentality, excuse my language, that bitches ain't shit and niggas ain't shit. You know, I'm 40 plus. So when I hear my age group, and I get it, we grew up in the NWA times, too short. However, this is my judgment that it's imperative that we get back to black love and black families, because our communities are in peril for lack of it. Our
yeah,
children are in peril for lack of it. We are having children with multiple partners. We're unable to communicate. So we're unable to have family structures, right? Um, and we're feeling the impacts of that. You know, I hear black men say, we're from Africa and this is what we did over there. And we had this many and all of that. But you're not in Africa. You're on the south side of Chicago,
mm,
right? Or west, wherever. And there are streets of children that are coming from broken homes. And we just either ignoring it or putting a band-aid on it out of some ego shit.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And our kids are suffering from that. And that's, and I want to really start being able to have those conversations, not from a judgmental space, but from a space of we need some, we need to get back to parenting. We need to get back to what a healthy relationship is, whoever you love, and being able to get some foundation back. Because I really feel that if we don't get a grip on our children soon, given the political climate that we're in, I don't think we ever going. We thought we knew what mass incarceration was.
Mm.
I really feel like we're gonna see a real mass incarceration and death you know, the numbers are, you know, escalating, but I just want to do my part to prevent and reduce as much as possible.
Thank you for that, and you should be commended for that. For years, mental health in our community has been kind of taboo, but we're coming around now. Uh,
Yes.
I served as a clinical therapist for children and adolescents with mental health diagnosis for many, many years, and probably about upwards of 80% of the children that I served were from single parent households. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of the relational aspects of those families, because you can't serve the children without family systems therapy, right?
Absolutely.
Ultimately, it is family systems therapy.
It is family systems.
And,
Absolutely.
and as a black man, I can't tell you how many times uh, transference took place on the part of especially the mothers, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
because the fathers would be absentee fathers for whatever reason, right? And
Speak
uh,
on it.
they see a black professional and they want you to wear all of the hats, right? Right. I'm not the children's father, but in a sense I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, you feeling you standing in the gap.
yes,
Yeah.
but not from the perspective of the fractured sense of what a relationship is, right? So you spoke about some of the guys. So ultimately, we've been provided, and when I say we, I'm talking about Black people as a community, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've been provided misinformation about healthy relationships. We haven't had tangible examples of healthy relationships. And when we say things like there was communal living uh, in Africa, that's only half of the story. What they don't tell you is if you had three wives, you had to be able to take care of three families, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had to
Mm-hmm.
buy three homes.
Mm-hmm.
It was sometimes you might have all of those families living in one home, but it's communal living, and the man was responsible for taking care of all of them. So they'll tell you half of the story,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but to your point, mental health is a big issue for African American people, especially in a city like Chicago, which happens to be the second most segregated city in the United States, second
Let's
only to
talk
Boston,
about it.
right? Second
Right.
to
Let's
Boston.
talk about it.
And so all of these things impact us because uh, not only are we not well educated on our own history, but we don't get to interact with other cultures and norms. And some of us can only see as far as the block that we grew up on, or the neighborhood that we grew up in.
Or Facebook or TikTok or
Right?
Instagram.
And so yeah, and so mental health
Yeah.
is a really big issue, and I'm hoping that you go on and pursue the future that you were discussing. What do you have in your future? What are the offers? I want the world to know so we can hold you accountable.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see what you're doing. But before we drop my future goals, I want to highlight something that you said. Um, and happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers. Happy Juneteenth. You said that fathers were absentee from the home for several reasons.
Mhm.
And I want to elevate that because you are so right. It is not always the narrative that the Black man does not want to be a father. I really want to elevate that because I have worked with amazing Black men. I have seen fatherhood in amazing Black men of all ages. Um, and I have also seen challenges in Black men being in the household due to mom's mental health, the way the relationship ended, um, unrealistic expectations, and guilt. And I'm gonna make things difficult for you. So I wanted to go back to that point because that is the narrative that is pushed, and that's a false narrative. Um, and systemic oppression removed Black men out of our households.
Are you talking about welfare reform of the 1960s?
Welfare reform,
Yeah.
um, the baddie era.
Yeah.
I don't need a man. I can do it all by myself. The Claudine era, and I'm not taking away from any sisters who have raised children. Um, I'm not. That is, it's a great accomplishment. But I do want to elevate because I do promote that we need Black men in our households. We need them in our community. And they are such an important piece to the development of Black children that is not noted or does not get the recognition that Black men should when it comes to rearing children and in mental health and the impacts to Black men's mental health when they are, um, I'm going to say the word exiled from the home, exiled from the child's life, exiled in the workforce. That Black men's mental health is something that needs to be elevated and addressed because we are seeing the suicide rates among Black men are high now, young Black men as well, that are taking their lives due to suicide or substance use. So I just wanted to put that out there. But my future goals, I'm looking at PhD. I can definitely see myself doing some research on the topics that we talked about because they are very near and dear to me. Because I know what mental health has done for me, and I know what I experienced as I have elevated. And I'm a huge proponent of digital health.
Mm.
I am. I am a huge proponent of digital health. I think it's phenomenal. I really feel like it would bring the resources to families and communities that need it. I do believe in person, but for me, where I see myself, I really want to promote digital health, behavioral health, digital behavioral, right? Because we're seeing so many adolescents with behavioral disorders, right? Oppositional defiant disorder, bipolar, with depression, with psychotic um, mania. It's just so much. Autism, which is just increasing. And I really believe that digital health will assist in getting those resources into the homes, to go back to your point, where we can be able to work with the family system, work with various schedules where it can be in person, where it can be in the home, accessible. But then the caveat to that is making sure that technology is in place and that, the accessibility to that. So that is my future. That's where I see myself. I would love to do a TED Talk. I believe I know I need to be on a TED Talk stage. That's just me, and I can see myself being a professor
Uh-huh.
uh, as well. Yeah, yeah. I was blessed to work at Tennessee State University like years ago, and that is I enjoy being on campus with the young people. It was dope. So I would love to hint go back to an HBCU and and pay it forward. I would love to do that.
Absolutely. I love it. So let me ask you this. I think you're going to like this.
Hmm.
How would you define life's genres or stages? Because
Mm,
I know for me, I've had several metamorphoses, right, in my life.
absolutely.
I mean, when people look at my life, it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable story, and
Yeah.
I haven't really put it out there in detail because I have big plans in the works for that. But it's phenomenal, right? It's absolutely
It.
phenomenal. So, how would you describe life's genres and or stages?
Mm. Well, I would say, of course, we got Eric Erickson's theory of psychosocial development,
Yeah.
right? We
Yes.
we got that, right? Trust versus mistrust. That's like when you 0 to 18 months.
Mhm.
We got autonomy versus shame and doubt. That's 18 months to 3 years. Initiative versus guilt, preschool. We have those. But I would say, for me, man, my stages of development and what I see now with our young people in stages of development is the social media has really, I guess, yeah, altered development
Mhm.
because it's like kind of rushed now. Um, and I know for me, where I have really had the most successes and the most elevation is in seasons of uncomfortability.
Mhm. Okay.
And the way that we are moving now, even with our young people, we are not putting them in positions to be uncomfortable to grow. And in every stage of development, like I just talked about from toddler on up, you know, when we watching a toddler or a baby learn to walk, we tell somebody, don't stop them, let them fall,
Right. That's
right? Let them fall because him and her gonna get back up and they gonna, but now we put so many buffers. We don't want nobody to fall. We don't want nobody to feel hurt. We don't want nobody to like. you got to watch what you say. You can't be offensive. You know, you got to be politically correct. And it's presenting a false sense of comfortability because that's not life.
That's not.
And that's not life. And it's not life for Black people.
Yeah.
It's not. You know, it ain't nothing, and I'm not being doomsday, but I've never seen in history where anything was comfortable for us. It was always uncomfortable.
You know what the irony in that statement is? Many of my successes lie in the mindset that I have now, which was another metamorphosis because I've had like about five, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Number one, I was taught that it was the most difficult challenges that offer our greatest growth, right? And
Mm-hmm.
secondly, this really helped me to navigate adversity and systems that wasn't designed in our favor, right? This really helped me to successfully navigate these spaces. I had to take the word fair out of my vocabulary. I
Mm-hmm.
don't use fair. I don't focus on fair. I don't teach fair to children, right? The concept of fair
Mm-hmm.
has never existed for us. And I think that's what I heard you saying, right? And,
Absolutely.
and so
Absolutely.
embracing that and moving forward in the face of the fact that there's no fairness, that I don't live in this concept of fairness, um, has made my journey more fruitful, right? It's it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
propensely a richer journey.
Absolutely. Because you seeing it with a different lens now.
Yeah,
You're able to strategize from a different lens. You're not, there's one thing to be optimistic. I'm not saying kill optimism, but what I am saying is, where I feel like we're missing the ball a little bit with our young people is we're not giving them the reality. We're not equipping them with the strategic mindset, logical, understanding and rational beliefs, knowing how to create smart goals that are realistic to the environment that you're in.
yes, yeah.
Okay. Resilience. We teach slavery, but are we understanding the resilience that came from slavery? That is
With
inherent
it's
genetic.
very important. This is very important because I want our audience to really have a clear understanding of what we mean when we say resilience. We're not
Yes.
talking about the resilience of being faced with something and being able to survive it. We're talking about resilience through resistance,
Yes.
right? This is what we aren't taught about the Nat Turners, right?
That's right.
Okay, so
That's,
there is resilience through resistance, right? I
that's,
understand what's in front of me. I know
that's
my personnel. In sports, they call it KYP. I know my personnel. I understand that this system wasn't designed in my favor. So I'm going to resist. That's the purpose of this podcast. We resist the outside narratives. That's why we bring people on to tell their stories, right? Their successful stories, their journeys. And many times those journeys have a whole lot of obstacles because most of our guests look like me, right?
yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
resilience through resistance. We refuse to allow outside influences to tell our story, to create a false narrative
To
for us.
create a false narrative.
When the system was designed by these same mindsets and it wasn't designed in our favor.
No,
So,
it's not.
no,
It's
we have
never.
successes, yes.
Oh yeah, it's never designed to foster a cultural identity, which is key in developing your identity and self awareness. Culture. That's why that's the first thing they took is culture, right? And the culture now that they're shoving on our young children and in our communities is a death culture, right? It's a death culture. It's a whole culture. It's a thug culture. It's a gangster culture. you know. And I'm not gonna sit here like I didn't listen to NWA, I didn't listen to all that. But on the flip side of that, I had a educational system, thank God to Kosminski. I had Black teachers in there who taught African American history,
Mm.
right? Who challenged what I was listening to and taught me also how to think differently. Although at that age I didn't understand it and I didn't do it, and I'm gonna tell you why. So you talked about narratives. Um, Growing up, I don't know if you know this, but my childhood nickname was Buckwheat.
I didn't know that.
And Buckwheat was a boy, not a girl.
The Little
Buckwheat,
Rascals. The
the
Little
Little Rascals. Buckwheat was black with nappy hair,
Rascals.
and Buckwheat was amongst all white peers, orphans, right? And he was the ugly one. He was the butt of all the jokes. So for me, as growing up, right, that is what I was called in my household.
Mm.
Yeah. So I took on Buckwheat.
Mm.
I took on Buckwheat and who I dated. I
Wow.
took on Buckwheat and how I acted. And I took on Buckwheat and how I pursued my personal development at that age, right? And then too, as beautiful as Kenwood was, Kenwood colorism was real.
I know that.
If you wanted a light skinned girl with the big Coach duffel bag, wasn't nobody checking for you.
Mm.
Real talk. And I experienced a lot of colorism up until I went away to Alcorn State University in the South, where my skin, my features were accepted. You know, that's I will be honest, the first time I really heard and believed that I was cute, that
You
I was
being humble. You being humble. Your features were idolized.
yeah,
Black
yeah.
beautiful when you get to the HBCUs. And for some of us here, but not the majority of us here, I know exactly
No,
what you're talking about.
no, not
That
the
was my high
majority.
school experience as well, right?
Yeah, and especially not
Yeah,
in Hyde Park, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Everybody wanted the light skinned girl, you know. Really in Hyde Park, we gonna keep it a buck. If you was my complexion or looked any kind of different, them niggas was trying to run trains on you.
Mm,
They weren't trying to uplift you.
mm.
You know, you was the one that they hit up to get their money for Jordans or this, that, and the other. Now,
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
have that experience, but I know of it, right?
Right,
It was more
right,
predatory. And I'm saying that to say, for me growing up in my metamorphosis, I had to do some work on my inner child and release that stigma of low self-worth. You know, I was called buckwheat for years, and no one saw anything wrong with that. I recall my mom trying to tell them not to do it, you know, but no one saw anything wrong with it. You know, my peers ridiculed me because of the way I looked. So I really believed that I was not attractive and not worthy. So my metamorphosis began to take place for me when I sought therapy and had to understand who I am and my worth and what I bring to the table. And it really changed my trajectory. It changed the way I see relationships. It changed that's intimate and platonic. It changed the way I showed up. It changed the way that I appeared and how I took more interest in myself and how I dressed. And it really ushered me into this profession because I always said I don't want another Black girl to experience what I did.
right.
You know, and I'm not taking anything away from because I've been blessed to have a great child. I've been blessed, right? But what I'm driving home is the narratives that we place on our children. You know, these fucked up nicknames. You know, um, a silent killer in our community we're not talking about is molestation.
Mm,
We're not talking about that on a male or female level. We're not talking about that. Intergenerational trauma and intergenerational acceptance. You know, we have become parents like we talked about, who want to give our kids everything. I want to protect them, but that's also enabling,
Mm-hmm. It
you
is.
know, and those, you know, that's what we're not talking about. And circling it back to how I grew up, it goes back to accountability. At some point, I had to take accountability for how I want to show up in the world as a woman, as a professional, and take ownership of my mental health. So my metamorphosis, I went through buckwheat. You know, it was like a butterfly. I went through buckwheat. You know, I ain't gonna lie, I went through Lil' Kim. You know, when Lil' Kim came out, I loved her. Kimberly Jones, I loved her.
Mm.
You know, I did. And then I went through the college girl phase where I was just chasing degrees. You know, I wanted to show everybody that I'm not buckwheat and it's, you know, and now I'm in a phase of comfortability and community and understanding um, the importance of decolonizing therapy,
Ah.
right? We do have to parent Black children different.
Yeah.
We have to approach the mass incarceration of Black women and young men differently. We have to care, and we have to approach the missing and endangered Black women. We have to have different approaches. We have to approach all of that differently. We have to come from a communal perspective, and we have to get back to a communal perspective because um, if you look at how other ethnicities operate, they are doing that. They have their spirituality. We have to understand our African spirituality, you know, so that we can magnify and intensify our cultural identity and resilience so that we can be here for another hundred of thousands of years. I mean, we just melanated Black folks, so yeah, we'll never be extinct. However, that mind and that brain that we're passing down to generation will inevitably cause the extinction of our soul, and it'll just be the walking dead.
You know, you're going to be really gifted as you move forward. You're already gifted, but you know, I've been a therapist for many years, and I've been in a company of different therapists, and I've been in the educational system for a lot of years. And many in our culture, even those who are in therapy, do not know about decolonizing approaches to therapy. And that's therapist and client. And so for
Absolutely.
you to say that kind of sent chills down my spine because I was just writing about that not long ago. Um, wow.
Yeah, that's where I am with it. That's it. That's where I am with it. The approach to therapy, to patients, to parenting, um, it has to be different because our experience here is different.
And it's an evidence-based model.
It's
It
an
is an
evidence-based
evidence-based model.
model.
And
That's right.
even you have you know, many therapists that look like us who are hesitant. They're
Hmm.
hesitant to articulate that, right?
Yeah.
But you know, that's a
Yeah.
whole other story. But I'm
You know,
so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Listen,
thank you.
let me ask you this. Turning the page again.
Yes.
What does Kenya read?
Oh, uh, I've been reading a lot of books on neuroscience lately. I am loving neuroscience, understanding the brain, the amygdala, right? The size of an almond, how it controls all of our emotions, prefrontal cortex, you know, staying regulated. I am reading right now Decolonizing Therapy by Jennifer Moulin. That is a book that I actually is sitting right next to me.
You need to send me
So
that. You need to send me that one.
yeah, I'll definitely send you that. Right now, I'm picking up any and everything I could read about behavioral health, substance use, and African spirituality. Like those are the modalities that I want to work from. Dialectical behavior therapy, cognitive behavior therapy.
DBT, okay.
Yeah, DBT. I love DBT. And like I said, I'm going through an internship for my CADC. And I love everything that I'm learning and that they teach, because I do believe that is those approaches, those are the approaches we need to use when it comes to violence prevention. Because that has become an addiction in our community. It's a way of life. It's an addiction, right? So, and working with those that are struggling with addiction, it's some rewiring and some restructuring. It's going from uh, the base all the way up to the floor, to the top, to the penthouse.
Yeah,
So, and getting those strategies in, smart recovery, all that good stuff.
yeah.
So that's all that I'm reading right now.
You know, I was in Africa, Kenya. I was in Ghana, to be exact, because I was in a few countries when I was in Africa, but I was in Ghana, and there was a group of young men that surrounded me. I knew the young men because I had been there for a while and we had interacted prior to them asking me, "Are you guys really killing one another in America like that?" And it all but broke my heart, right? These are young men. They're like 12, 13, 14 years old. And I answered and I said, unfortunately, this does happen in pockets of America. Um, and there are many explanations for it. And one of the young men said to me, he said, because we don't do that here.
Mm.
Because we
Mm-mm.
don't do that here. But what we're starting to see is that the young Africans are so fascinated with American culture. Some of the culture bleeds into the continent, right? Some of what they see, the imagery that they see in America, because they got YouTube and Instagram and all of that stuff too, right? And
Yeah,
some of
and
the
substance abuse is actually on the rise in Africa,
yes,
in African countries. It's on the rise. Yeah.
a point. So some of the imagery that they see is beginning to transfer there. These same young men that were asking me, "Are we really killing one another in America like that?" Uh, could eventually end up adopting some of these Americanized methods that we have,
Yeah. That's being glorified.
the bad habits. So,
Bad habits. Absolutely.
I would just encourage our young people and people in general, let's set a better example because the world is watching us. That's my point.
Absolutely.
My
Yeah,
point.
and I love to throw this piece of history out there, and this is my food for thought. I always tell people, at one point in this country, Black people couldn't even own guns,
Hmm. Of course.
right?
Of course not.
We couldn't even own a gun.
Yeah.
Guns were specifically, and to this day, when you look at gun ownership, it's still white Southern men have the highest percentage of are the highest percentage of gun owners. It was specifically connected to white men, right? We Black people weren't even able to own a gun, look at a gun. They were expensive, right? They were made so that we could not afford them.
Yeah.
And now we are flooded with handguns. And my partner, he states, and his theory is that the handgun has replaced fathers in our communities,
Mm.
right?
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Because fathers protect, provide, and defend. And that is what the gun is doing right now, you know, protecting. It's a way of providing. And you defending, right? You defending your block or whatever. And I always like to throw that point out, because that's not even who we are as a people. Violence. We've never been a violent people. That's not our culture. Now, did we fight wars? Yes, but just savages. just to what we are seeing now, especially among young women, we don't come from that.
Mm, yeah.
So we've taken on the ways of our oppressor, and we have become the the oppressor.
Well, I mean, that's what we learned it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, wow, yeah. Last day,
Mhm.
turning one more page. What are you presently listening to? Are you listening to music at all?
Oh, absolutely. I love music. That's my jam. So what am I listening to right now? You know what? So honest. I've been listening to the Stylistics playback as a dog. I created me a station on Apple.
Yeah.
I love my stepping music, but yeah, I've been listening to that. I play often the Common and
P-Rock.
Rock. I play that album a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I play that a lot. I love that. And then Tony Jones, she's an affirmation artist. I play her I see mantras. I play that on repeat.
Okay. That Common and P-Rock is one of my
Yeah, that's my jam.
I
Yeah,
never
yeah,
wanted that. I got it on vinyl, but I just I think I'm gonna keep it. I haven't even opened it, but I listen to that so much. I switched to something else now, but that's good.
yeah,
So
yeah.
listen, as we close here, our final segment is called Big or Small. I got a story to tell.
Okay.
In this section, I like to afford our guests the opportunity to tell a story of their choice.
Mm.
Doesn't matter what the story is, big or small, right?
Right.
Now is your time as we close.
So I'm gonna tell a story. So I would say about maybe about 3 weeks ago, um, I got a text message, and his name is Will Hawkins, and that's my dad's name. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? Who is this? And he's like, hey, I'm your brother. I got your number from Aunt so and so. He was like, I hope it's okay, and I want to connect with you. And I'm like, wait, what? So definitely connected with him, talked on the phone, and I knew I had one brother, but in a matter of 3 weeks, I have learned that I have four brothers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
four.
well, have you been able to digest that yet?
Um, so it's a both and. So
Mm.
I'm grateful because I'm an only child with my mom, right?
Ah, okay, okay.
So I'm grateful, and they all doing well. Like my brother is a superintendent of schools, right? That's alignment. He's married, has a beautiful wife, beautiful kids. Like he sent me all kind of pictures. You know, it's been it's like really real testament of how your life can change in 48 hours.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Um, and then like in the last couple of years, I've had some major transitions. My cousin was murdered. My homegirl from college transitioned to cancer. Then another homegirl from college transitioned to cancer. So to get that influx of people with those transitions, that's how I'm looking at it. That's how I'm looking. That's how I'm looking at it. I had to process some things about my dad because it's like, damn, Papa was a Rolling Stone, right? You know,
Ah,
whoa, you're right.
yeah, yeah.
But but it's been it's nice. It's nice. It's nice because it's we got a group chat going. My sister's in the group chat. So like I said, I went from an only child to now I'm in a group chat with my brothers and my sister. And we they sending pictures. So it's been really nice. It's been real nice.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a hell of a story. Wow. And I think the reason you're able to be so graceful with it at this age is because you know, we talked about the metamorphosis, the series of metamorphoses that happens in
Yeah.
our lives. And as we mature, we look at things differently, right? Because you remember
Mm-hmm.
finding this out when you was like 16 or 20, right?
No,
It would have
no.
been a different
Would
response,
have been
right?
so different.
So,
Yeah. It
yeah,
would have been so different. Nah, so I'm grateful and looking forward to see how it grows, you know.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Kenya, it's been a blast. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking out the time on your beautiful afternoon to come and
Yeah.
sit down with us here at Chicago's Illectuals podcast. Can you tell the world your social media handles? If they want to get in touch with you, they
Yeah.
can reach
Sure,
out to you.
sure. So the website for my podcast is Collage, KOLLAGE, LLC.com. It's under construction, but keep that under your hat as well. And then on Instagram, let me see, because I am getting better with my Instagram. It's uh it's just Kenya underscore believes. So that's where you can catch me on Instagram. And then my email address is kenya.s.hawkins@gmail.com. I definitely will come out and speak and do any kind of mentoring circles or panels. I'm open I'm open to all opportunities.
Thank you, Kenya. For Kenya Hawkins, I'm the Kid Rod Allen. This has been another episode of Chicago's Illectuals podcast. Until next time, peace, peace. Get ready for that CVS all white party, the day party coming up.